Hey everybody, it's Eric the Horror Man, and welcome to another episode of Top 10 Tuesday. Today I'll be doing top 10 favorite vampire movies. I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. I think I would actually have like all the vampire movies that I need for my top 10, but I do. So if you see a movie with the same title, so forgive me on that one. I just figured I said to add it to my top 10 favorite vampire movies. So, without further ado, number 10 is a movie directed by Wes Craven that was done in 1995, and that's Vampire in Brooklyn. This movie stars Eddie Murphy and Angela Bassett. This movie is a horror comedy, and this movie is not bad. It's actually fun. I thought Eddie Murphy did a good job playing a vampire. Mostly, it's about where after a Freightliner comes to the city of New York, and apparently that Freightliner is carrying the vampire, and now the vampire is out. He's running loose in the city, and he's like trying to find his true love, and he ends up falling for a policewoman that he's trying to turn into a vampire. So Vampire in Brooklyn, not too bad of a movie, even though it's done by Wes Craven, and there are some funny parts, especially when it comes to Eddie Murphy. Next, at number 9 is From Dusk Till Dawn 2 Texas Blood Money. Yeah, I know some people may not like this movie, but I actually enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed the end of music at the end of the film. So, From Dusk Till Dawn 2 is actually a very fun movie about where a group of bank robbers head to Mexico to steal a perfect $1 million heist. But it turns out one of the bank robbers ends up taking a wrong turn and ends up coming across this bar that's filled with vampires. And once he gets bit, he ends up meeting up with the gang, and he's trying to turn them into vampires. The movie stars Robert Patrick, who's known for playing the T-1000 in Terminator 2, but he also played in The Faculty. And I thought Robert Patrick did a very good job in this movie, and I definitely enjoyed the first two From Dusk Till Dawn movies. The third one, I really didn't care for, even though I saw it once. So, From Dusk Till Dawn 2, not too bad of a movie. Very fun. Next is Fright Night Part 2. This is a sequel to the original Fright Night. Only this time where Charlie is at college and Peter Vincent is also there at the college as well doing his TV show, and they end up coming across the sister of Jerry Dandridge, Regine. So now it's up. Now they have to find a way to put a stop to Regine because she's in love with Charlie and she's trying to turn him into a vampire. So it's up to Charlie's girlfriend and Peter Vincent trying to save Charlie and put a stop to Regine before he could end up becoming a vampire himself. I bought this movie at a convention a couple years ago, and this movie is actually very, very fun. Even though the first original Friday Night is better, but the second one to this is actually not that bad. So, Fright Night Part 2, very fun, classic vampire movie. Next, at number 7, I know a lot of people have their differences on this movie, but I don't care. I actually like this one. I saw this movie in theaters in 3D, and I liked it. And that's Fright Night, the remake. But the Chris Mannon says it's mostly like a reimagine of the this one. So this movie has like the same storyline as it does in the original, where a teenager discovers that his new neighbor that lives next door to him is a vampire, and he's trying to seek help from Peter Vincent, who is like a magician in this one and not a TV host. But this movie, I had so much fun watching. I thought this one was actually a very good reimagining, and I thought the music to the film was pretty good. I thought Colin Farrell did a very good job being a vampire. And from what I heard from stories, Colin Farrell was a huge fan of the original Fright Night. And it's actually nice to see Chris Sarandon making a cameo appearance in the remake. So, the remake of Fright Night, very fun vampire movie. I definitely enjoyed this, and I saw this movie in 3D in theaters. And I thought it was just a blast. Next is a movie that I didn't know it was actually from Marvel Comics until I played the video game for it on PlayStation, and that's Blade. This movie is sort of like a mixture between action and horror. Some people have their differences of where they put this movie either with the horror or with the action. And I guess it doesn't matter where I would put this because I consider this mostly to be a action film, even though yes, it does have something to do with vampires. But Blade is mostly where after his mom dies from giving birth to him after she was bit by a vampire, he ends up growing up, but and he's like a half human, half vampire, and he's got all their strengths, none of their weaknesses. And I thought Wesley Snipes did a phenomenal job playing Blade. And this movie was just so much fun. The rest of the Blade movies are very fun too, but this is one that started it all. So now he's like looking for Deacon Frost that he's been after for so many years. Because Deacon Frost wants to awaken and a vampire godlike. So Blade is actually a very fun movie. So I definitely recommend checking this one out. Also check out the sequels. So Blade, very fun vampire movie. And like I said, it's a mixture with action and horror, and some people have their differences of where this movie would be. Next, at number 5, it is 30 Days of Night. This movie is just so much fun. I thought this movie was just a lot of fun to watch, and I thought it was a very fun vampire movie about where a small group of survivors band together in a small Alaskan town that ends up dealing with bloodthirsty vampires in a small Alaskan town that goes dark every month. Well, not every month, but once a month every year. So, living in Alaska for in a that goes dark for 1 month every year. I mean, would you be able to handle it? I mean, you know, I probably might, but some people say it would end up wasting their light bill, making it a little bit high. So, 30 Days a Night, very fun vampire movie. I thought Josh Hartnett did a very good job in this one, and this movie was just so much fun to watch. I definitely had fun. The sequel was okay. I don't have the second one, but the first one is definitely so much fun to watch. Next, at number 4, I ordered this movie as an upgrade on Blu-ray. I'll be getting that in the mail pretty soon, but once I do, you'll be seeing that in my end of the month haul. But I'm going to show this movie that I have on DVD, and that's From Dusk Till Dawn. This movie is just wow, a lot of fun to watch. Very fun vampire movie from 1995 with Harvey Keitel, George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, and Juliette Lewis. And everyone's familiar with this movie, basically where two brothers kidnap a preacher and his kids in an RV and cross the border to Mexico to hide out from the cops, hide out in a bar. But once they get to the bar, they find out that the bar is filled with vampires, and now they have to fight for survival. This movie was just so much fun, a lot of good kills. It was very amazing. Nice to see a couple special makeup effects artists in this movie, Tom Savini and Greg Nick Turturro in this one as well. Also seeing Fred Williamson in it, who's known as the Hammer. So this movie was just so much fun to watch. And this movie is just like one of my favorite vampire movies. It's definitely right up there. So From Dusk Till Dawn, I definitely recommend checking it out. Next, at number 3, is one of my favorite movies of John Carpenter's, and that's Vampires. Vampires is a very fun movie done by John Carpenter, and it stars James Woods, and I thought James Woods did a hell of a good job in this movie. I thought the music by John Carpenter was pretty good. This movie is basically about where after Jack Crow's entire team has been slaughtered by the master vampire, he seeks out revenge on the master vampire. And it turns out that this master vampire is looking for a certain cross that he's been searching for 600 years that gives the power to have vampires walk in the daylight. So, Vampires, very fun movie, definitely enjoyable, and I definitely recommend checking it out. And I thought James Woods did a hell of a good job in this movie, and I thought the music was very well done as well. Next, at number 2, everybody is definitely very familiar with this movie from the 80s, and that's The Lost Boys. This is like one of the most recognizable vampire movies from the 80s that everybody is familiar with. Where this movie's got Jason Patric, Kiefer Sutherland, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman. This movie is so recognizable, and basically everyone knows that's about where a mom and her 2 sons move into a California town where teenage vampires lurk. So, The Lost Boys, I'm not going to go into much details, but everybody's familiar with this movie, and I definitely recommend checking it out for people who hasn't seen it. If you haven't seen this movie, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's definitely up there, and it's definitely one of my favorites. And finally, at number 1, if you know what the number 1 vampire movie is, then you guessed it. It's Fright Night, the original. This movie is a very good vampire movie from the 80s with Chris Sarandon in it doing a very good job playing the vampire. And like I said, this movie is the same information as it is on the remake that I said, where a teenage boy discovers that his new neighbor that lives next door to him is a vampire, and he turns to a TV host for help. But no one doesn't believe him, so now Charlie has to find a way to fight off against this vampire on his own. The music by Brad Fiedel, who did the music for the Terminator movies, very good, especially the main music that you hear for the vampire and the seduction song that he uses. Very good. I definitely enjoyed that one because it's like one of my favorites. The soundtrack is pretty good. The songs are good. I definitely recommend checking out the Fright Night. If you haven't seen the original, I definitely recommend checking it out. But good luck trying to get this because this movie is out of print. So if you want to check out Fright Night, go right ahead. I definitely recommend checking it out. Alright guys, so that's my top 10 for my top 10 favorite vampire movies. What'd you think of this If you like it, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Was there any certain vampire movies that you liked that you saw? Was there any vampire movies that I might have missed out that you think that should have made the list? Please let me know. And like and subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for some more videos. Later.